This afternoon, we are here at Mumbai International Film Festival for an exclusive masterclass on the unique approach to animation pioneered by George Schwizgebel. We extend our gratitude to the Ministry of Information and Broadcasting, the National Film Development Corporation, and the Satyajit Ray Films and Television Institute, Kolkata. This masterclass offers in-depth exploration of animation techniques, from character designs to digital tech, with practical exercises for animators to hone their storytelling and animation skills. Please join me in welcoming with a round of applause Mr. George Schwizgebel, sir, as an animator, director and producer, and moderating this masterclass is Miss Dhvani Desai ma'am, who is an acclaimed international award-winning animation filmmaker and curator. I now invite Shri D. Ramakrishna sir, General Manager of National Film Development Corporation, to come and felicitate our esteemed guest. I now hand over to Ms. Dhvani Desai ma'am to commence today's enriching masterclass.
It's a very unusual situation because my name is Dhvani and I've lost my voice today. But this happens with a lot of animators because, masters, there is one film called The Man Without a Shadow, and his shadow disappears, and so does my voice today. We are animators, so we can free our shadows and voices. There are so many things happening in the festival, so probably they have gone to see in the other auditoriums. So this is the situation. Anyway, I'll continue. Well, I'm Dhvani Desai, been in the field since nearly 33 years now. I have seen all types of animation, but the reason why I decided to curate this particular session is that in India, generally I have seen over the years, there are people who do fantastic animation, which is a little art-oriented, but a lot of people give more importance to commercial style of animation. And I, over the years, I have attended MIFF since the last 34 years. I have not missed any. Initially, I used to come as a student, then as an animation professional, and since now nearly 12 years, I have been started curating animation programs, that is master classes, country focus programs, and retrospectives. This year I decided to bring in George Schwizgebel's masterclass in retrospective among my other two packages, that is Greek animation and Argentina animation. Well, coming to George's films, they are something very different which we usually don't get to see in India. He is an unparalleled voice in the history of animation. Before the advent of 3D animation, this master started doing his animation by painting on glass, that also with extraordinary camera movements and walkthroughs. And that was nearly 30 years or 40 years or even 50 years ago. I myself am a 3D animator. Still, I am still fascinated with the art he has. He's also been influenced with certain art movements of Europe, that is Fauvism and Surrealism. I will come to that later. But while talking about Master's work, he has been awarded in several international festivals multiple times, won several Lifetime Achievement Awards in many countries, including NSC, Zagreb, Switzerland, Swiss award he's got. Even the France has given him the award for lifetime. He's also there in the Oscar committee since 2019. Another reason why I decided to get George's films was that I come from a creative family of poets and writers and filmmakers. I myself am a poet. I have, since my childhood, read French poetry and especially surrealistic poetry, which I can see in his films. I have been exposed and read since my childhood to André Breton, Baudelaire, Rimbaud, and all these glimpses can be seen in his film in the surrealism. But something which really strikes and takes my attention is Octavio Paz's poetry, a Mexican surrealistic poet who had won the Nobel Prize in 1990. I would like to quote his couplet before the master starts his class. Between going and staying, the day wavers. Between going and staying, the day wavers. All visible and all elusive. All too near but can't be touched. That's exactly what we feel about the master's art. His camera movements, his paint on glass, and the loops and the movements and the cycles are not only extraordinary, but it's like poetry on canvas. This is the art of George's Schwizgebel, and I am so very proud and privileged and honored to get Master for my dear MIFF that has made me an animation filmmaker today. Georges, the stage is all yours.
Thank you, Dhvani. Thank you to coming to say my presentation. I only made a short film and without dialogue. I still use acrylic painting on cello, and I also use digital camera to shoot the drawing. Until 2011, I use I use 35mm camera, but when the digital forced me to use, I changed my way. I have an animal stand, so now I continue to use this, but just with a digital camera. It is no longer useful to teach this technique, so I hope that my presentation can generate interest to tell a story, even without a story, or presenting ID, visual ID. And I will talk about 4 topics: music, loops, movement on the space, and metamorphosis. At the beginning, I will talk about the steps because I maybe you know how to make animated film, so I will briefly introduce how my way to make animated film. Sometimes it is when I walk and travel. I made some sketches like that, or like that, to make a new project, the background for the film. Again. And sometimes the beginning of a storyboard, because before made a storyboard, I also made a line test before to go to try to find a financial support, and also to know exactly what I want to do. It's 2 steps of the same storyboard. The first one and then the last one I use to make the storyboard. And also we can, like a key drawing to make the storyboard, the key drawing on the line test. I use both for the storyboard and for the line test. This is a storyboard.
Speak a little louder.
Oh, okay. I use the small size also to make a composition and to try to find color for my 1 second. Some example like that. It is very small size like that. And the result, I use 12 field size to about all my film. Again, for the black and white, if I want to, especially if I want to make the loops, I must know exactly the beginning and the end. The end must be exactly the same as the beginning. Again, normal size. And now I will use a very short film, about 20 seconds. It was a homage of Rodolphe Töpfer from Geneva. He is considered in Europe of the first writer who made a comics to put together text and images, like in Yellow Kid in USA. And for make that film, I made a storyboard about only 60 drawing, because this 20-second music, a bagatelle of Beethoven, I use 240 drawing. And first I use with this 60 drawing to make the storyboard, and also to make the first line test we will see, 8 by 8 frame. And then with 120 drawing, I made the second line test, 4 by 4, and the third one, it is 2 by 2. So you will see the first. Normally, you must hear the music. What about the sound? Second one. And now the last one, the last story, the line test. Sorry. And as a result, I use a dry pastel on sandpaper. It is only 30 seconds with the credit. Music. There are three possibilities with music. For example, first use existing music and follow the structure of the music, or first make the images and then ask a music composer to make the music. Or the third possibility is to work together with the music composer from the beginning. And score, I don't can read a score. So when I want to use existing music, I put the music, I heard the music, and then I draw. I draw to follow, to find the structure of the music and the rhythm of the music. This kind of drawing. And in this rudimentary storyboard, first I draw the axis, and then to follow the music, and then the character or the background. And we will see a storyboard of this film Romance. No, sorry, not a storyboard, a line test of the film Romance, and then the same short sequence with the film. I have a very old line tester. In in 96, I was in Annecy International Animated Film Festival, and I saw a retrospective of Patrick Bokanowski, a director I like very much his work. And then I realized all the music was made by Michelle Bokanowski, his wife. So I asked her if she agreed to make the music for my next film. She agreed, but she wanted the film was finished and then she can make the music. And I was a little bit afraid because wait 2 years without know which music she want to make for my film. So I use Variation Heroic from Beethoven to make all my film in case of I don't like the music of Michel Bokanowski. But finally, I use the music of Michel Bokanowski. And now you will see a short part of that film with Beethoven music, and then with Michel Bokanowski. It's exactly the same image, but different music.
Yeah, before we move ahead, you must have all the people who have attended his retrospective has noticed that music is a very integral part in his films. I want to ask you one question before you go ahead. In many of your films, Judith, our friend, common friend, Judith Gruber Schwitzer from Canada, has composed your films. And now your son, a very well-known pianist, Louis Schwizgebel, is composing your films. How is it working with both the people, different music directors? Also, how is it working with your son? Is it easy or difficult? Because you are a master.
No, it's very different because my son play music, so I ask him if he can play this morceau. Of course I can play, and I use the music. I follow the music what he play, and he helped me a lot to understand the structure of the music. Because for me, I must heard many times to understand. This part come again, and I am not a musician. But if I ask Judith Gruber-Schwitzer, it is different because the film is finished and then she made the music and the soundtrack for the film. My son is not composer, it's an interpret, so it is a difference. And it was very easy to work with my son because he can help a lot, as I say, to understand the structure of the music.
Another question that comes to my mind is, your films have no dialogues. Is it a conscious effort, or you are just too much in love with music?
No, it's a contract, but I like to have some contract, and because at the beginning I don't plan to do all my film without dialogue, but more animated film, more I think it's the best way, because in animated film you can see, you can show the film in a lot of countries with different language. If you must read a text, you cannot see what's happened. You cannot see what's happened in the image. Of course, some script need scenario. Very good film need scenario. It's different. So I have this contract to not use dialogue. It's limited for different scenario, script.
One more question on music. A lot of animators across the world say that you animate music. So, do you compose the music before your films or after the film is ready?
In my case, I have some film inspired by the music, but another film, I try to make a script exactly with the same structure of the music. For example, the film Romance, the structure of the music, with the help of my son, it is A, B, A, B, C. So I try to find a story with the same structure, and I use a novel of Alain de Botton, Essay in Love, and it was my film was based of the story, but with the same structure of the music. Or in the film El Koenig, also this film, we was in China, and my son must explain to the audience what's the meaning of what he want to play. And when he say in that film, in that music, there are a narrator at the beginning, and four voice, narrator, kid, king, and father. So I realized I can make a film. And it was a little bit more easy with a film because the poem has four voices, the music also four voices, the same meaning as the music. So if I don't put dialogue but images, maybe we can understand.
Okay. Now we can continue with your...
There are a lot of connection in between 24 frames per second in a cinema, and the tempi in how many tempi in 1 minute. As you can see, there are a lot of connections. And when I made a film without music, I like to follow the rhythm. And for example, in the film Retouche, I use several loops from 8, 12, 16, 24, 32, and 48 frame. All these loops were included in the big one of 96 for a wave 2 seconds like that and 2 seconds like that. And we will see people who walk and jump 8 frame, 16 frame, 8 frame, 8 frame, 16 frame, and all his arm become a bird and then become again the man. Oh, sorry, this is a sketch for just for this film, Retouche. The music was made after the drawing, but in the drawing there are the rhythm. In another film, Jeu, the tempo of Prokofiev is Allegro Presto 160. So it means 9 frames. And I use loops of 1.5 seconds. 1.5 seconds is 36 drawings, so 9, 9, 9, 9. So you will see a small excerpt of that film with this rhythm. In the film El King, the rhythm is the rhythm is, oh yes, 154 per minute. It's not in my table, but I use something between 10 and 9 frames to have the rhythm of the I made a horse who gallop in the forest. And this perspective is to put the tree to make the loops of the avance in the forest. And now you will see a line test. First, the 6 different perspectives, and then the horses who move with the background, and then with the music, and then the horse move against the rhythm of the background. And now the same exact other film. In another film, The Ride to the Abyss, the music of Berlioz have a rhythm of 160. I change the background every 9 frames, exactly the same rhythm as the other music. And it is a big loops of 6 seconds. I use 144 different drawing, and I have so 16 background. Every 9 frames I change background. The connection between music and image will be more apparent in another film, The Younger and the Cloud. In that film, the tempo is andante, 90, and I change background every 16 frames, but the animation is normal with 12 drawings per second. In The Year of the Deer, another film, I like very much unfinished quartet of Schubert, but it was difficult to tell a story with existing music. Especially for that film, it is a Chinese tale, and it's important people understand the meaning of this. So I asked a friend, a music composer, to make the music, and I tell him, I like the 3 last notes of this quartet for my film. So he made a composition, he followed my storyboard, but he also was influenced by this quartet and used the same 3 notes at the end of the film. We will see just the end of the film. Loops, another topics. I like to do loops because not only because sometimes we can save time with the loops, but also for the beauty of the form. And in one early film, Perspective, I shoot a friend from in a street, and I realize at the beginning and at the end she is in the same place on the screen, and with small retouche I can make the loops. So we will see an excerpt of that film.
George, I want to ask you one question that comes to my mind. I've been thinking about this because a lot of senior animators across the world have also shot films and then either did etching or painted on the film. Have you also used this technique to put the film under the glass and then painted on the glass?
No, I never use scratch the pellicule. Also, painting on the glass I use only in one film, the subject of the picture. In fact, all my films are painting in acrylic painting, this and on acetate. And for that film, I follow the image I shoot in live action, so we call it rotoscope. And in that film, it's not acrylic, it's gouache. In another film, I must say a lot of birds on the sky, and I use several loops together. It was more useful than to draw so many birds. We will see a small excerpt of that sequence. In the film, the subject of the picture, in the storyboard, I draw. We can see I draw some some field of grass, trees, and sky on the bird on the sky. And I used maybe 12 drawing to make 1 or 2 seconds, I don't remember exactly, but a very small sequence, loops, and then I move on this small drawing, and I get maybe 12-second animation, as we will see. And then I think I will make a film only with 1 loops, but of course a big drawing, and I have existing music for that film, this visual idea to make the loops, but I don't have a script, except I follow the music of Hector Berlioz, the Ride to the Abyss, and I decided to make the conductor of the center of the image, and like if he directed image and music together. It was 92 when I finished that film, and we buy a line test. We can find quite cheap line test at that time. This is for the line test. This is one of the 144 painting. And I use the spiral path to move on these loops. It is 6-second loops, so in 6 seconds we are in a different rectangle. Every 6 seconds we are in a different place, so we cannot realize it is a loop. So after maybe 3 minutes, I zoom out, and at the end we can realize, or not realize, but we can see the beginning and the end together. So it's not something in the time, it is something like a moving painting. Together with the At the end, I use 2 frame by 2 frames, so the loops become 12-second loops. I draw all the animation at that size, and then I photocopy bigger format the original, the painting. In that film, I can use old painting, because when I finish 1 loop of 36 different drawing, I put in a dryer, and I have time to do another loops and in 1 month the painting became dry and I can continue, because it's not useful to use oil painting for animated film. Is this one of the, and now you will see 2 loops several times, more than in the film, to understand how the loops is made. And if we have time, the film now is 4 minutes.
You're done? You're done.
Yes?
I'd like to ask you a question, especially on the loops and the movements which you mentioned. I remember attending your masterclass in Bulgaria when we both were on the jury. And this question has been haunting me since then, about the loops and the cycles which you prominently use in practically all your films. Somehow it connects me to an animation film by a Polish animator of 1981 called The Tango. Yeah, it had won the Oscar award also. That, of course, it was shot in a live action, but it had repetitive loops. Of course, it's very different to your style, but somewhere it connects me. Where does this inspiration come from? First, talking about the loops, then I will come to the other inspirations.
For the idea of my loops, it is to move on the loops. Because it's not such film, beautiful film from Zbigniew Tango, but my inspiration comes from the optical game, for example, can see like that is, and if we move, we can also see something a little bit different than the loops. And also because in my film, the subject of the picture, when I made that to save time, and then I say, oh, it can be also be bigger, can be bigger.
Second question about the inspiration, especially about the look of the film. Somewhere I feel that I can see glimpses of the art movements which were there in Europe, the Fauvism and Surrealism, maybe a little bit of Impressionism also. Are you really influenced by them, or they just naturally come to you in your films?
I am influenced by painting. I like very much to see museum exhibition of painting, and when I try to find documentation for a film, I see a lot of painting. Yes.
Yeah, so there is some kind of, in a subconscious mind, it must have played a role. Also, another thing about your storytelling and the concept. Somewhere again I feel that you are inspired with some mythological stories or short stories. Is that true?
Yes, also because when I made a film without dialogue, if I use a story everybody know, I don't need to explain, and I can make a variation about. For example, Cinderella, I don't use to explain what's the story. Everybody understands it is Cinderella. It is just a different way to tell Cinderella. For Faust also a little bit the same. I read a lot of books about Faust, and I made maybe 4 films about the same subject. Like The Man Without the Shadows, when the maid who writes a book, it is influenced by Faust. It's a variation of Faust. Adelbert von Chamisso. Ouais.
Well, a very important question for all the animators, the students here sitting in the audiences. We have a big question about the financing. Also that in India, animation is still by the producers. They feel that it's a medium for children. People readily give money, and sponsors are ready to give funding for a children's film. If we want in India, if we want to make a typical pure art animation film, we find it very difficult. How do you manage to get funding and finances for your film?
Maybe I am lucky to live in Switzerland because we have the Swiss government helps the cinema. The Swiss TV also must use a percent of this budget to the Swiss production, include short film, and so I was lucky to get some prize when I start, and we were not very a lot of animator at that when I start, and I made a storyboard and I explained the film, and I can make a film. I don't get money when my film is finished, only if some channel buys the film, but it's not a lot of money. But I get money before I made the film from the storyboard, and also in Switzerland we have 4 language. The part we speak French. We have also a foundation who give us a percent of the Swiss TV give or the Swiss government give. So these 3 different places are quite enough to make a short film, not to make a feature film.
But even if it's a art form film, not having a typical story as such.
If you made a film for children, maybe it's more easy to get found because the TV needs this kind of film. This kind of film I made, nobody need, except maybe some cultural channel and festival. Almost I sent to festival, and also because I don't use digital, I have a lot of drawing, and every time I finish a film, I have a gallery who made an exhibition of my work, and I can sell my work.
So where does all this energy come from? Yapping, your lovely wife from China? Is that the secret of your enthusiasm?
Maybe. But nobody forced me to make a film, and if I like to draw, I like to make film, and I am lucky to get enough money to can continue. So why stop? If I don't get idea, I don't know what to do, I stop. I will stop.
No, it's amazing. I'll add one more thing, is when we had the retrospective, and of course my voice was better 2 days back. I hope you heard everything what I said. The best part what I found about him was his observation. And we as animators or filmmakers or artists with any form of art really need to learn from him. When we were sitting in the audience and films were getting played back to back, I did peep in here and there to see when people were coming, but he noticed that it is because from the projection he could see shadows of people. So what he told me at the end, I could see shadows coming, not going out, which means that people are really interested in the form. A man who makes a film, man without shadow, also notices shadows, which is also amazing. So I like to open the house for questions, and he's there to answer. I'd like to invite Sakar Barve, the young interpreter, to join us in case George's has little trouble. I don't think you have a trouble, George. You are, handling everything very well. Your English is very good.
In the Battle of San Romano, I don't have a existing music, but I have existing images. It is a Battle of San Romano for Paolo Uccello. And I move 4x4 from the left angle, no, from right angle, to move like a spiral. And it is quite a big drawing, but only 36 to make the film of 3 minutes. And we'll see a line test of that film. And the same sequence in the film with the music of Judith Gruber-Zitzer. Movement on space, it's also a specialty of animation before the digital arrived. It was complicated to make movement on space with live action and metamorphosis and loops also. So I continue to use, because I like handmade work. In 7 p.m., for example, I made a lot of loops in different size, different position, to have a 3-second rotation with the same speed of in all the film. I also use the loops in another film, not loop, ellipse, sorry, ellipse, to draw a couple dancing and to move around the couple. So first I draw the couple who dance in different positions. Then I put together this couple in different size, and use acrylic painting on and dry pastel for the background. And a small part of that film. In another film, I draw this staircase, helped me to draw some people go out or go down of this staircase. In the Man Without a Shadow, first I want to draw a lot of shadow before the shadow disappears. So I have the idea to draw a cube. The cube turn in one direction and the shadow turn in an opposite direction, like we can see here. And I follow this contrast to make something strange before the shadow disappears. And we will see the beginning of this film with the cube and the shadow with opposite direction. In another part of that film, I want to draw somebody walk around water, and the camera move around him. So first I made some key drawing, like you can understand in this rudimentary sketch, and then I made a line test. I correct, and you will see the line test and the result. The sound, yeah, disappears.
There is sound in this clip.
In another film, Retouche, I think if the camera turn around two tennis players, no need to draw two players, only one player, and then use reverse, the same animation in reverse. And I also think if we change the point of reference, we can use the same loops with a different position, and for example the ball don't move but everything moves, as you can see in the line test. and now it's a film normally with music. Same as the beginning, rudimentary storyboard with only access to follow the music, but also to follow the movement in the space. And now we will see the line test of this sequence. In another sequence, a man to go up and down in an escalator in a 1 second. You will see the 2 times with a man and with a woman in a opposite, in a verso, recto and verso of the same animation. Last topic, the metamorphosis. In one film, 70 RPM, I made a short sequence with metamorphosis, loops, and movement in space together. When I made that, I don't know, I made these 3 topics together like I talk about right now, but in fact it's like that. There are some drawing of this sequence. And the short sequence. In this storyboard of the subject of the picture, we can see some duck move on the water and slowly become printed duck on the curtain. And we will see the result. And so, 23 years later, I made a film with the same idea to change something to move, like others adapt in something to move. The film Retouche. This is that one. We will see a small extract of that film. in the film El King, Metamorphosis, allow me to suggest danger and to go in another sequence without cut. In Darwin notebook, in the native story, that their break, when they talk about their story, there are a lot of seconds with the music, with the same rhythm. The music follows the rhythm to go from one sequence to another sequence. It's 2 times 16 frames for our subject and 2 times 60 frames for the metamorphosis in another subject. And now the last example in my film, from one painting to another, we can see a lot of metamorphoses who follow the rhythm of the music.
I'll request anybody, if you want to ask any questions to the master. The house is open.
I have the mic. Good afternoon, and thank you very much for introducing a 70-year-old to something that he has never seen before. Now, I've had a problem with animation because if I think cinema, 24 frames, and then suddenly we had video which was 25 frames. So it used to knock my music haywire. What is your yardstick? Is it, if it's just frames, it makes sense because then the music can be composed to it. But in actual exhibition, now you being in Sweden, then possibly you're going, 24 frames a second. But how do you manage the frames bit?
Maybe I don't explain very clearly, but of course we need. It's every second we have 24 frames, and usually I made 12 drawing, 2 by 2 to have 1 second. But if I use 9 frame for a 9 frame, 9 frame, 9 frame, it's just the rhythm. The rhythm of means 160 per minute.
That when Sir is planning sequences or whatever, there are 9 frames, 9 frames, I understand that.
Yeah.
But 9 frames on the basis of 24 frames a second or 30 frames a second or 25 frames a second. Because 9 frames then have to be to run for a particular time.
Yeah.
Correct?
Yeah.
So that is what I'm trying to ask.
Okay.
What is the basis of the final exhibition speed? 24 or 25 or what?
Okay.
In digital, anything goes.
Yes.
Your computers are all 30 frames a second. Cinema is supposed to be 24 or 25 frames a second. or we just leave it as a question mark?
Ok, ok. Alors, vous utilisez 9 cadres, c'est ça? Dans votre film, 9 cadres, frames, 9 frames.
Oui, mais c'est images aussi. 9 images.
Ok, 9 images. Mais est-ce que vous utilisez 24 images ou 25 images comme la base de ces 9 images?
J'utilise toujours 24 images,
Ok.
parce que, comme j'ai montré, il y a beaucoup de connexions avec les tempos de la musique. Avec 25 images, il y en a aussi, mais déjà, le gros défaut de 25 images, en animation, on fait souvent 12 dessins pour une seconde. Si on a 25 images, qu'est-ce qu'il faut faire? 12 dessins et demi, ça ne va pas.
Okay. He's saying he always uses 25 frames, yes. It's
So
useful for him.
it's standard PAL def.
Okay, yeah, yes.
Got that. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And once again, fantastic, because from 1970 to now, and most of it is hand-drawn. And to think layers and transitions, so God bless you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ramesh, for asking such a wonderful question. Georges, Ramesh has been one of my first clients when I started my career in animation, and he comes up with such brilliant questions. Thank you so much, Ramesh, for coming. Also, I would like to specially thank A.K. Bir Saab, who has graced us by giving his presence. Thank you so much, Bir Saab, for coming. Vaibhav, thank you for being here. Rajni Bhai, thank you. Sanjay Verma ji, Arun ji, Rashmi ji. I am seeing so many familiar faces. Before we end the session, I wanted to thank everybody.
So most of this is without dialogue. Though you did say that you would want to do something with dialogue. Is this, I'm trying to wonder whether, how we can adapt this style to narrative animation, perhaps with a story.
Il se
Voice.
il se demande s'il est possible d'adapter ce style avec la narration, avec la voix.
Je pense que c'est possible, mais en tout cas, dans les films que j'ai faits, j'ai justement essayé d'expliquer quelque chose, de montrer quelque chose avec des images et pas avec des paroles. Mais suivant le sujet, c'est pas possible de se passer de dialogue. Ça dépend tout de ce qu'on veut raconter. Si on veut raconter quelque chose de compliqué ou de très drôle, il faut un dialogue.
He's saying that it's better to convey certain things only through this medium because they are better said through this style and not through dialogues.
I just wanted to know, sir, if you spend more time in pre-production planning all of this or in producing it. Like, where do you find it to be more complicated, in figuring out the transitions and the concepts and everything, or in actually producing it?
Avant, la production pour des courts-métrages, c'était assez simple. Peut-être ça me prenait un mois pour mettre au point mon histoire sur un storyboard et faire un dossier de production. Mais maintenant, c'est beaucoup plus compliqué parce que maintenant, il existe des vrais producteurs. On doit passer par eux. Moi, je n'ai pas besoin puisque j'ai évolué avec ça. Mais pour un étudiant, maintenant, il doit passer par un producteur. C'est trop compliqué de faire les demandes, les ordinateurs, les programmes, tout ça, il faut connaître. Donc, quelqu'un qui fait ça tout le temps, qui produit beaucoup de films, il sait comment on fait. Quelqu'un qui commence, c'est trop compliqué.
Ok. Vous dites qu'actuellement, il faut passer par des producteurs, c'est pourquoi il est compliqué?
Oui, ça c'est compliqué la production, et seuls les producteurs connaissent la production, ce qui n'était pas le cas il y a 50 ans. Il n'y avait pas de producteurs d'ailleurs, pour les courts-métrages.
Oui. Oui. So 50 years back, there weren't really producers who came up with short films. So that time it was really difficult, but nowadays it's comparatively easy.
now it's too much complicated for people who start to make short film. You must go ask a producer. And for me, because I evolved with this complication, I can continue to produce myself, but I don't spend 1 month, maybe I spend 6 months.
Okay, we'll end this session here. Thank you, all of you, for joining us for this wonderful session.